Welcome to Coffee, Eggs and Inspiration. It's a weekly show that goes out over YouTube and as a podcast over all of the major channels. And each week I get to sit with an inspiring person and listen to them tell their story and share it with all of you. This week is no different. I'm very, very lucky and pleased to be joined by Atalla. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I thought you were going to say this week an inspiring person was not available. But here's Atalla.
So tell me about how you met Ricky and how did The Office come about?
Yeah, I mean, there is no, once you get into the world of TV and comedy or any kind of thing, there is no real career path. Like, it's the opposite of an accountant who has to, or, you know, my family are all doctors who, you know, exam, 4 years training, another exam, move up the ladder. You can move quickly or not move at all in lots of creative industries. And quite early on I met Stephen Merchant, who was sort of a trainee with me in that comedy department in my early jobs.
He was a writer as well.
He was a writer, and he was more interested in writing, I was more interested in producing. And he had a friend called Ricky Gervais who was working at a radio station called XFM in those days. And towards the end of Stephen's sort of traineeship, the BBC said to him, well, to finish off you get X amount of money, it's not very much money, make a 10-minute film.
Yeah.
Can be about anything you want. And he made it of his friend Ricky Gervais, who was beginning a character who was then called Sleazy Boss.
Right.
So sign of different times. And really it was quite a one-note, very sort of, it was that kind of classic lower middle management thing that David Brent became.
Yeah.
But it was quite narrow in its focus, and it was much more, you know, him sort of slightly. There's a scene in the beginning of The Office where he's sort of interviewing a lady and he's sort of being a little bit lascivious, and it was a bit more of that. And from then, I saw that and just fell in love with it. And I'd worked in a few offices in my time, but I had a very I've always had a very acute sense and kind of a love of the mundane, of the mundanity of life, of like, you know, we all do these certain things, these patterns that people who, you know, I made a show about people in supermarkets. You know, I like the mundane, I like the everyday, and the melancholy really of, I guess, what I've just been saying, people going to work every Monday morning and it not being what they love, and then making a product that they don't care about, and then having a boss who they would not wish to spend time with.
Right.
And living for the weekends, and that's what The Office became.
So it's Staff Lets Flats. What's that about? Where did that come from?
Yeah, Staff Lets Flats it's written by this guy called Jamie Dimitri, and he is Cypriot, and I'm Egyptian by birth. And we were sort of talking about being second generation in his country, and he just sort of talks about his father and that kind of lettings agency, you know, those kind of people, you know, the very opposite of Foxtons, you know, these kind of crappy high street, you know, they take you to see a flat and you're like, do you even have the keys to this flat? And you go in and there's like no walls, you know.
And then People Just Do Nothing. If you haven't seen it, find it somewhere and look at it.
Well, it started on YouTube.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely brilliant, and it is just, again, innovation in comedy. Talk to me about that and your latest project.
Yeah, well, People Just Do Nothing is used along as a sort of a model of, like, they started putting clips up on their own on YouTube. I saw it, I thought it was very funny. It's set in a pirate radio station, again, you know, slightly underrepresented group of world, again, the sort of the mundanity, I'm sort of drawn to the same themes time and time again.
Set in
Brentford, guys whose ambition far outstrips their talent. And, you know, again, a brilliant bunch of performers, and we started working on it, and, you know, it's had a similar trajectory, I guess, to The Office. It started slowly, it started to pick up fans, it's got some awards buzz, it went on and won a BAFTA.
BAFTA, yeah.
The guys have become famous and rich, they don't return my phone calls anymore. And, the way we make television is pretty similar. The cameras have got smaller, but
mine's pretty small.
Yours is really small. For anyone
smartphone.
For anyone watching this, the equipment is extremely cheap.
Thank you.
Please
Thank you for pointing that
please
out.
send money, and they didn't know that.
Donate. Link below. No,
Very
I can't do
cheap,
that.
some sort of Kickstarter.
But there's probably some people watching who are thinking about getting into TV or film, or maybe some people wanting to pivot in that direction as phase 2 or 3 or subsequent phases. What advice would you give them, Ash?
You know, it's you kind of need to be under somebody's wing. You know, there's just a truth to this. The industry is trying to change a lot, but it's really about personal contacts, and you have to find those personal contacts. You've got a lot of people to shoot at and to aim at. You know, there are any number of production companies like mine. There are any number of producers, film companies. You know, there's a lot of people trying to get into it. The most common way to this day remains work experience.
Just try and get a foot in the door.
Just trying to get a foot in the door. You know, it's not fair, because why should people be able to afford to work for free? And I think our industry is trying to stop that as well. You know, and they're aware that self-selects a certain kind of person, which isn't right either. But whatever the mechanics of that is, getting in at the bottom, formal qualifications, less important.
Less important, right?
Bring your personality, if it's a good one.
And maybe experiment and gather a little, you know, college radio or whatever you were asked about.
Honestly, there is nothing stopping, you know, these days, as you will know from your user-generated content, and people just do nothing began. There is nothing, anyone watching this who thinks they have something, a funny character, you don't need my permission or my know-how nor my equipment to help you make that at least a taster tape, right? At least something to show.